Hello, Quakecon! I'm Jess Folsom, Senior Community Manager for the Elder Scrolls Online.
I'm Gina Bruno, Community Manager for the Elder Scrolls Online. We are so happy to be here for another Quakecon, even if we can't be with you in person.
We're also happy to be here with our friends Matt Firor, Studio Director for ZeniMax Online Studios, and Rich Lambert, Creative Director for the Elder Scrolls Online. Hey guys!
Hello, hello.
Hey, it's great to be back at Quakecon.
All right, so we've got a packed panel for you all today. We're going to update you on where ESO is at right now.
We're going to share the latest news on this year's Gates of Oblivion adventure,
Reveal a brand new trailer,
and share a lot of details on some upcoming partnerships, sales, and a free play event.
Before we get too deep, though, let's play a fun game. I want you both to describe, in 10 words or less, to newcomers, what ESO is.
Most welcoming fantasy virtual world community.
I think that was 6.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
nice.
gonna be way better than mine. Mine's gonna be play the way you want.
To your point, there really is so many different things that you can do that you can play any way that you want. Not to sound cliche, but it is true.
You can't really mess a character up. You can always change it up any way you want. You're not locked into a specific role. You know, you can use different abilities. You can play with anybody. You can explore any way you want. You're never behind. So as a brand new player coming in, you know, I get asked this question a lot. Is it too late to start ESO? You're 7 years old now at this point. Jump in, start playing. You can play with anybody.
And as somebody who has a very difficult time making decisions, I find it very refreshing to be able to just redo things if you need to respec, try some different weapons, try a different class. There really are just a bunch of different ways that you can play and try out the game.
Yeah, there's almost no decisions that you can't back out of later and change. So,
Thank goodness.
And we did that on purpose. You know, we want it to be a fun game for people to get into and not be intimidating. And we don't really have levels in the traditional sense that other games of this type have levels, which means you never have to catch up. So even though the game's been out for 7 years, you don't have to worry about catching up to everyone else. You can just jump in, create a new character, and play with those players that have been around forever, and it's fun. Like, and it's really the only game of its type that does that.
Exactly.
It's always the best time to start the game. It really is. We don't need to have fast leveling promotions or anything like that. You can really just jump in and play.
So we've actually recently surpassed 19 million players, which is a pretty incredible number. And our community is continuing to grow year after year. How do you feel like the game has evolved with the community and vice versa?
Wow.
Well, I think, you know, in the early days after we first launched, you know, we went on a years-long changing the game based on a player and community feedback. So, and I think that process made us really understand how important community is to the game. And we always knew that it was, but it's important to us, and everyone watching this is super important to us, because this is how we determine what the game is, what kind of features we put in. I mean, we have our own plans ourselves, but those are very much based on what we hear out in the community, out on social media, and talking to players one-on-one when the world returns to normal and we can do that. But yeah, so very, very important to us.
Yeah, and it's just that journey from kind of launch where we didn't really know or understand what the game was supposed to be or wanted it to be, to what it is now, where it is that kind of true Elder Scrolls game where you can explore it, you can play with your friends, and you know, just kind of do the things you want to do. You want to go and read a bunch of books. You can find books scattered around throughout the world. If you want to go on a murdering spree and stab everybody with Blade of Woe, you can do that too, right?
But you will pay for it.
Only if you get caught.
Well, and I think, you know, you were talking about how you can go anywhere. We're not gated by level. The one Tamriel update that happened, it was maybe a year after launch, maybe?
2016.
2016.
A lot of that was based on community feedback that they wanted to be able to go to these areas.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was, we knew that we had made so many changes to the game for the positive that lots of new players were going to want to come in, and then how could they play with the people that had already been playing for 2 years? And that was the solution we came up with. And I mean, we just announced over 19 million players, and it's pretty easy math. We add millions of players a year to the game, and it's because it's very forgiving and very fun for people just to drop in and play if they haven't before.
So Gina and I have been a part of the ESO community for a long time now. I can't even count the years. It was before launch.
We need 2 hands at least.
I know. And we know exactly how amazing these players are and all the different ways in which they play, but you're a part of the community too. You guys both play, so tell us a little bit about how you both play the game.
Well, I'm very much kind of the power gamer. I love collecting all the items, making builds, messing around. I love the solo arenas. If I had to pick kind of one thing in ESO, it's the solo arenas. I love that. I love chasing leaderboard times.
You're good at them too. I've seen you play.
And trying to, find ways to get better at that and improve on that. So that's my thing. I also really like just running dungeons in the community. I do a lot of just click random veteran and see what I get dungeons.
And there's a reason why Rich streams the hard content and I don't. But it's not that I don't play the game a lot, which I do. I mean, many hours. I mean, Rich and I both, I think, have played most of the content through at least 2 times before it even gets to the live servers. So, it's a lot of time. But I love more the solo. Just exploration, storytelling. I love that part of the game. I also love housing. I love I mostly play solo, although I do co-op dungeons, and I PvP. So those are and obviously you can't solo PvP very well in ESO. So I join pickup groups and I jump out with my Nightblade and stab a few people. And
Matt's a ganker.
So we've seen the community evolve in a lot of different ways, and we've talked about how you both play. But what are some of the ways that you found other people play ESO, maybe both within the studio and in the community?
There's a huge range of people in kind of what they do. We have a really good housing community internally.
Oh yeah, they are so passionate.
They're super passionate.
So creative.
We have people that just play like Matt does and do the soloing and explore and go through every piece of content. I like that too. I like doing the dungeon stuff a little bit more, but it is very interesting to go from the internal servers where you've played through everything ad nauseum and you hear RoboVO. And then you get the real voiceover work with real actors on live, and it just completely changes the tone and the feel and the setting of everything.
It's funny because you do have, I feel like, 2 different ends. You can be really hardcore, do the end game trials. You can do a lot of PvP, battlegrounds, but then there's also the other ends of the spectrum where you can go fishing and just kind of kick back and chill. And
it's whatever you enjoy or
Housing,
whatever you need that day.
Housing's pretty hardcore. That community is pretty hardcore.
Yeah, if you look at the content that we release every year, we identify groups of people and how they play the game. So we always do some story content, we always do some co-op dungeons, we usually do a trial or a solo arena, right? And those are acknowledging that different people play ESO differently. I've been known to say many times that if you ask 5 ESO players to describe the game they're playing, they'll give you 5 different answers, and they're all right. It's there's no wrong way to play. You can, if you just want to play it like you did Oblivion or Skyrim, you can just log in and play solo and not worry about any of the multi-user stuff. That's fine. If you want to do co-op dungeons and go on loot chase and like Rich does and to get all the good gear, you can do that too. You can just craft stuff for your guild. You can you can decorate houses. All of that is valid. You can fish. Like I think the second hardest achievement in the game is a fishing achievement.
I got that one.
Nice.
I do not have that.
Well, you have to do it 3 times on 3 different platforms.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, and I love that we've got developers at the studio that cater to every type of play style. And my personal favorite is the world builders who take the time to create all these little scenes with no words at all, just building a little scene out in the world for the players who do take the time to go off the beaten path and find them.
Yeah, my favorite one of those is a skeleton sitting up against a wall and has an apple on top of its head and an arrow right through the middle of the skull. So obviously a game that went very wrong. That's my favorite.
There's
one.
some extremely poignant ones as well. Like there is a scene of a dog sitting next to a
I was just
grave
thinking of that one.
that every time I see it
heart
just
out.
melts you. Every time you see it.
We see it pop up on the forums or Reddit every few months. A new player stumbles across that, and every time everyone's like, "Oh, that one."
Sauce, why you do this?
There's many different ways to tell great stories in a game like this, and we have players that just like to kick back and experience the stories. So there's a lot of exploration out there if you go around and explore the zones.
So we've actually got a few other friends here that are going to share their favorite ways to play ESO.
What do I love to do in Elder Scrolls Online? You know, I gotta say, from a very early time playing right up until now, I think my favorite thing to do still is to just explore.
The story is pretty much never ending because you can make it last as long as you want.
This game has excellent world building and progression, as well as lore and quests that really help you immerse yourself into the game.
I have played this game for about 6 years, and I still feel like on my main character, I have not completed everything.
When I'm playing The Elder Scrolls Online, I find myself gravitating towards grouped content these days. I love any excuse to get my guild, the Insanity Party, into the group with me.
Along the way, I made a couple of friends, and so we wandered into a dungeon together, and that would change the way I play Elder Scrolls forever. Dungeons were my new favorite thing, and they still are today.
There's really nothing quite like working against difficult hard modes for hours with friends and then finally clearing it after so long.
Is where the bloodlust and the adrenaline kicks in when you jump in the battlegrounds and you put your build up against other players' builds, and the sense of satisfaction you get when your build starts to pop off and your skills are just chaining together nicely. It's really, really good.
I fell in love with the housing system in ESO about 1.5 years ago. And now I spend a lot of time hunting furnishing plans, furnishings, doing antiquities, which is a new system that came out with Greymore, to get furnishings for my houses.
But of course, my all-time favorite thing in ESO is the fashion, and of course creeping on Argonians and hoarding all that crusty bread.
I work as an actor, and so after a long day filming or on set, or memorizing lines, to be able to come home and jump into that world that feels so second nature now, and that I feel so at home in, to be honest, where I get to be that hero.
Like in many ways, this whole journey started with me reading comic books and playing Dungeons and Dragons, and when I was really young. And the thing I still love about going and playing ESO with my friends is it's kind of the ultimate experience that I had. Going from playing D&D to playing Ultima on my Commodore, to now getting to play in an amazingly detailed world that is immersive and massive and challenging, and just getting to live that kind of fantasy that has been part of my motivation in this space forever, and that's both how I play and why I enjoy ESO.
So with so many players in ESO and so many different ways to play, what do you both think keeps those players hungry for more?
Keeps them hungry for more. I think at least for me, the thing is continuing to introduce more content, more varied types of content. I think you look at our update cadence. We do 4 major updates every single year. There's really nobody else that does that, and we try to vary it, like Matt said, but we also try to find new ways to surprise and delight. And by that, I mean new ways to play ESO. So you look at Antiquities with Greymore last year, right? That was a completely new way to play ESO that wasn't just questing and killing. It was exploration-based and lore-based, and players loved it. Same thing with Companions this year. This was a brand new way to play ESO, where you have a permanent adventuring buddy that kind of helps you explore the world on your own.
Yeah, we very much view ESO at this point like literally a fantasy virtual world. So there are games in the virtual world. It's not just a game. Like there are multiple games in there, and like Rich said, we keep adding new ones. Like Antiquities last year was a new game inside of the game. So that's how, to me, we keep the game fresh and keep players interested, because they're already in the virtual world, and we just give them more activities to do, more quests to go on, more stories, new characters, reintroduce some old characters that they love, and new game systems. And as long as we keep doing that, that's what players love, is the virtual world they love that keeps growing.
So every year we release a new chapter for ESO. This year was Blackwood. Where has this chapter taken us, and what are some of the bigger features that you found that players are really enjoying?
Well, Blackwood takes us to Blackwood. Which is the region essentially from kind of the southern tip of Cyrodiil to the borders of Shadowfen, right? Yep. Yes, Shadowfen. And so it's kind of this undiscovered region in Tamriel. And so you get to learn a lot about the Argonians, you get to learn more about the Imperials, It is a story focused on Mehrunes Dagon and kind of what he likes to do, which is try to take over Tamriel.
As you do.
As you do. Daedric Prince,
Just another day in Tamriel.
It never seems to work out for him.
No, it doesn't. And then we introduced the companion system, which was a pretty big thing. And we have a brand new trial in Rockgrove. And then a bunch of quality of life improvements and bug fixes and performance improvements.
The cool thing about companions, too, is let's say you run across a world boss that's a little too difficult for you to do by yourself. You can just summon your companion and they can pop out and help you out. If you just need a little bit more help with something.
Yeah, and for those that are unfamiliar with ESO's content model, every year we have a meta story that goes over the whole year, and then we have different updates 4 times in the year that tell the story in different ways, through dungeons, through a big chapter with a lot of stories, and then a story DLC at the very end. So this is something we've done since 2018, I think, maybe 2019, with the Elsewhere and the
Season of the Dragon.
I was going to say Year of Dragon,
yeah,
but then
yeah.
I remember getting bonked on the head for saying that last time.
Season of the Dragon.
Well, it's going to happen again.
Yeah, but it's something that we do. Like it's a really good way for us to get players interested, have a new part of Tamriel, new stories, new characters every year, but in a way that makes sense and tells stories and introduces more content.
So Matt, you kind of just touched on this. Blackwood was this year's chapter, and it's just one part of the Gates of Oblivion year-long adventure. What else does Gates of Oblivion entail?
What else? Ooh.
Well, it has the companion system that you talked about, the 12-person trial. Oblivion Portals is another one
which
that
is a new
I really
one.
enjoy.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was getting to, because it's this kind of year-long story of Mehrunes Dagon, and eventually you're going to go to the Deadlands. Teaser, hint. I don't think that's a spoiler.
Soon.
No, it's not.
We've mentioned it.
We've mentioned it, yeah.
And so, one of the really cool things about Oblivion Portals is there's these portals that appear randomly in Blackwood. And when you find one, you can click on it and you actually go to the Deadlands and go on this kind of mini dungeon run through the Deadlands. And it's a dungeon crawl, essentially.
They're fun.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So we recently released our Blackwood chapter, part of the year-long Gates of Oblivion adventure. The next DLC coming out in Q3 is Waking Flame. So what are some of the features of that DLC?
So it's 2 new dungeons in Red Petal Bastion and the Dread Cellar. And these dungeons further the story of the Gates of Oblivion and eventually lead you to the events of our 4th quarter DLC, which is going to be all Deadlands all the time.
And special for Quakecon, we have the world debut of the gameplay trailer for Waking Flame.
These damn acolytes, followers of Mehrunes Dagon. They never stop. The Order of the Waking Flame is searching for something. Dangerous relics of the past. Now they descend into forgotten reaches of Tamriel to scheme and unlock power. And my home, in the dark reaches of Oblivion, is under threat from the Prince of Destruction. Disaster is coming. And we need all the help we can get.
So the Gates of Oblivion and the Blackwood chapter are sort of the latest in the ever-growing ESO saga. What are some of your favorite locations from other test games that we've been able to revisit in ESO?
I kind of have two answers to that. The first one is Stormhaven, which I like only because we returned to it about 58 times during the development of the game. For you all that don't know, that was the zone that we created as the basis for what the rest of the game was going to be like. So we redid Stormhaven about 8 times.
Yeah, I was going to say 6, 8 times.
Yeah. So I actually always love going back to that. It's weird, it's nostalgic to go back to something in your own game, but if you can, I can see the evolution of the game just by going through that and looking at how we did content in that. So, but for the other Elder Scrolls games, it's definitely Daggerfall, because that was the first Elder Scrolls games that I really played. I mean, I played Arena a little bit back in the early 90s, but it's really Daggerfall, which if you haven't played it, it's obviously dated now because it's from like 96, 97, something like that, but it is huge. Like, it is one of the largest games I've ever played, and it's got actually a really good story, and the systems now are a little hard to get through, and so is the UI, but the story and kind of the way the world works and the political factions are really, really well done.
The cities were so big.
Yeah, so I love going to Daggerfall and ESO, even though it's obviously not to the same scale, just because it gives me kind of that vibe that I got back when I played my first Elder Scrolls game.
Yeah.
I kind of have two answers as well. One was definitely Morrowind. Kind of going back there. I can remember, as a fan before being a part of, the Bethesda family and the ZeniMax family, buying a new PC so that I could actually play it because I was so excited to play it. So being able to go back and do that was definitely big and exciting. And then the other one that isn't necessarily from other test games would be Orsinium. It definitely kind of paved the way for chapter idea. It helped kind of pave the way for One Tamriel. When you think about it.
It was the first place we did the leveling system was just in Orsinium.
So that one is definitely very fond memories too.
So switching gears a little bit, players can now experience all the locations we've created in ESO natively and fully upgraded on their current gen consoles with Console Enhanced. Can you talk a little bit about what Console Enhanced entails?
So Console Enhanced is a new version of ESO that runs on, of course, the Xbox Series X and S and PlayStation 5. If you think back, the last gen came out in 2013 or 2014, and ESO came out in 2015 on those, and that was a long time ago in the tech world. And it runs well. It's a great experience. Millions of people play it on those original last gen platforms just fine. But so much has happened in the tech world between then and now that we really wanted a newer version that really showed players what the world of Tamriel looks like. And so graphics and the experience on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X are better right now than they are on PC, and it's because they're so powerful. They're really powerful devices. They have really fast transfer times internally, so loading times are better, and it lets us do really cool things like you can play in fidelity mode, which is 4K, everything turned on at 30 frames a second, or have almost all of the same fidelity settings except at 1440p and play at 60 frames a second, which we call performance mode. And we even did that on the Xbox Series S, even though it's cut down a little bit because it's not quite as powerful as the others. But and players have responded really, really well, especially to the performance modes, because console players had never played ESO at anything other than 30 frames a second. And the first time you sit down with a controller and play it at 60, it's really, really, really sweet.
Yep. So what would you say ESO brings to the table for players that are on Xbox Series X and S and PlayStation 5?
I would come out and say it's one of the biggest games on those platforms. It's this huge, massive world. We have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of content to play. And the game looks amazing. It runs at 60 frames per second, and it is a true rival to the PC experience.
Yeah, and there really is no game like it on console.
Yeah, I agree.
Even now, after 7 years, there's no game like ESO on console. Like, it's super easy to get into. It's on Xbox Game Pass, right? You can just jump in and play it if you're a member. And you can just play it. It streams on xCloud. Like, it's super easy to get into, and you just dip your toe into it, and it's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of content that right now is the highest fidelity version of the game that you can play.
So how can players get their hands on Console Enhanced for ESO right now?
If you're on Xbox, it does it automatically. You just it automatically upgrades to it. On PlayStation, you have to go into the panel, the ESO section, and then choose upgrade from there.
Awesome. And earlier we mentioned we have a free play event happening right now for ESO.
That means anyone playing on next-gen console will be able to try out Console Enhanced.
And if you're enjoying yourself during the free play event, you can pick up the game on sale right now. You can dip your toes into ESO with the base game, or immerse yourself into the Gates of Oblivion year-long adventure with all previous year's chapter content when you pick up Blackwood. There's multiple routes you can take.
Now you can see why this is the best time to play ESO. Thank you so much for joining us, Matt and Rich.
Before we go, we'd like to tell you about a couple of very awesome things still in store for ESO players this year.
There's tons of in-game excitement, but there are also a few things happening outside of the game starting tonight. In just a few hours, our friends over at Critical Role will be premiering their second Gates of Oblivion one-shot.
If you missed out on the first one, you can watch it on demand on the official Critical Role Twitch and YouTube channels. But tonight, join the Critical Role cast as they return to their tavern in Grotwood and continue their adventure and encounters with a Daedric threat. Tune in at 10 p.m. Eastern tonight on twitch.tv/Critical Role.
Next, we've got a very special surprise, and it's certainly music to our ears.
We're excited to share that we are working with the heavy metal band Trivium on some awesome upcoming projects. We'll be streaming together, sharing limited time merch, encouraging your creative side with some new contests, and giving away a guitar totally worthy of the Daedric Prince himself.
Even more exciting, they'll be premiering their latest single later this year, and you're going to get the first chance to hear it. Find out how after this quick message from Trivium's guitarist and lead vocalist, Matt Heafy.
What's up, everybody? Trivium here. We're super excited to be partnering with ESO this year. Elder Scrolls have been one of our favorite game series of all time. We love everything that's come out from Bethesda, things like Fallout, Elder Scrolls, Skyrim, love it. We have a lot of amazing initiatives coming up together with Trivium and Bethesda and ESO to keep all you gaming and metal fans super stoked. People can expect many amazing things to come from the partnership between ESO, Bethesda, and Trivium. We've got sweepstakes and contests. We've got covers. We've got a debut of a Trivium song that's going to be actually featuring some incredible Elder Scrolls gameplay in a music video. Stuff we wouldn't have ever imagined to come together. We'll be talking to developers of the game, be streaming the stuff ourselves, so you got a lot to look forward to.
So how can you hear that track? Join us at our Gates of Oblivion year-end stream on Twitch this fall. You'll get to hear the debut of Trivium's latest single, plus you'll learn more about the epic conclusion to the Gates of Oblivion year-long adventure, ESO Deadlands, with a behind-the-scenes look.
Thank you so much for tuning into our ESO Quakecon celebration. There's a lot more coming this weekend. Remember, the ESO free play event and sales are running right now. You can learn more at elderscrollsonline.com.
We also have ESO panels, including a dungeon speedrun competition on Friday at 6:30 Eastern Time and a live art demonstration on Saturday at 6:30 Eastern Time. You can join us in supporting some great charities as well this weekend by donating through the link on your screen.
We'll see you in Tamriel.